Welcome everyone and welcome to Neha Pathare, who is a yoga teacher from the
Uh,
Yoga Tribe studio in Mumbai. Thank you so much for being on episode 13 of Cocoon.
Thank you, Karen, for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. And so I actually met Neha when I took some students from the University of the Sunshine Coast over to Mumbai as part of the new Colombo plan. And Neha gave us this beautiful asana class where what I loved about it, because I'm a yoga teacher too, and I love taking other classes from other teachers because I learned so much. And what I really loved is there was so many different levels of experience in the room, and you catered to everyone so beautifully, and you challenged all of us, which was really good as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so, with this interview, I always like to start at the beginning. So, where did this journey begin for you? How did you become a yoga teacher and begin sort of working in this sort of wellness space?
Karen, a bit about my background is before coming to wellness and before coming to yoga, I was a full-time hairstylist. All
Oh,
right.
wow.
And yes, and that was kind of taking a toll on me because of long working hours. And I used to be stressed one client to another, and you got to deliver. And that's when I thought maybe I needed to do something for my own wellness. And I started going to a yoga class. As a student, I started practicing. This happened somewhere in the year 2016, and I started going for classes. Now I also realized that I had the potential to instruct and teach a little bit. Like you start feeling okay, you can do this. So in 2017, I got myself certified from Mysore. I went away. I took a sabbatical from work, and I went away for a 200 hours yoga teacher training. And once I was back, there was no look back. Like I continued being a hairstylist, but side by side, I kept my practice alive. And then I used to do like a few students and start teaching as well. But that was only in the hours that permitted me to do so. But I think there was a calling. There's a calling for everything, and I just followed that. I was always fascinated with retreats and going away, and I just learned ever more after doing my teacher's training in Mysore. So that is where it all started.
And then how did you begin working at the Yoga Tribe studio?
So I have known my teacher since 2017. I was practicing with student with him, and slowly as my practice progressed, my teacher said, "You are doing well, and now you got to think like if you want to do yoga full time or you want to do both." And somewhere down the line, now I have chosen to teach full time. So I wasn't teaching full time until about months ago, and I had a career switch. But I was teaching. Past 2 years, I was teaching. I had fewer students, and I was able to balance, like do a few personal classes and practice on my. But now I'm into it full time yoga teacher.
Now, that leads me to my next question. So, you told me before we went live that you were teaching about 8 or 9 classes per week, which is
Correct.
which is a lot. That's a lot, and so that's more than one a day. And so, how do you maintain your energy levels to be able to teach so effectively?
So first and foremost, when you become a yoga teacher, you start to inline yourself. You make time for your practice. You also are aware about what you eat, what time you sleep, and what content you're watching. It's very
Mm,
important.
yes.
For I space out my classes. I don't go from one class to another immediately. I always give myself some time. Sometimes there are back to back classes, and I'm able to balance them. And I have a mix of a group class, a online class, and a personalized class where I go to their place. So I space it accordingly so I have enough travel time. And I also take a little bit of break in between so that I'm able to replenish myself. I'm able to do it. That's how
Yeah.
I.
And so, are any parts of the year more intense than others? Or is it sort of spread out? Because I wanted to ask, when you have like a really busy time with your work, do you do anything to sort of soothe yourself after? That's, when it's like a bit busier than it normally is. Do you have any practices that you use to sort of, I guess, rejuvenate yourself again and to look after yourself?
Absolutely. So, Karen, the first thing is you have to think about yourself before anything else, and you will not be able to deliver if you've not taken a break, or let's say. So, I do listen to music. I do meditate. I have this one pranic society that I follow. It's an energy-based meditation that I do, and I love being around animals. So that is one source of energy for me. So
Yeah.
I adopted these 12 cats. They live in the premises of my building, but I feed them.
Wow.
That way connect with nature. I love being around them. And then obviously over the weekends, not during when I have classes, it's not possible, but over the weekends I do like to watch movies and catch up with my friends. And so that sort of brings about a balance, you know. And
Yeah.
I strongly recommend that when you are connecting with people, you tend to absorb a lot of energy from them as well.
Mm,
It's
it's true.
important that when I get home and I take a shower, I use a little bit of salt to kind of dissolve that energy from my body energy
Yeah.
field. Yes, it's important because you've absorbed so much. You've given, but you've also taken back.
Yeah.
So it is very, very, very important that you kind of take care of yourself in the process.
Absolutely. And so, what do you wish you knew? Well, what do you wish you knew at the beginning of your career that you know now? So, if you could go back in time and talk to yourself, what advice would you give yourself?
I think we've spoken about this earlier, and I told you that we all start as practitioners first. We all start a journey as a student. We do not become teachers immediately. And when you transition from becoming a practitioner, that is only for yourself. And then you go into taking more and more classes and teaching people. You need to create time for your own practice. When you're doing so many classes, you
Yeah.
and that's where you feel like you want to come. So what I have done is I've created some time. It could be 30 minutes a day, 45 minutes a day. I try to create the time to come on the mat and do my own practice. And I wish I had known this earlier. Like when I first started so many students on board, I was not able to give myself the time, and I did like tend to feel the low in the energy. But then I
Mm,
was like, heard what it is, and I wish I had known this. Like nobody told me this, that when you start teaching, you will have lesser time for you. So you got to bring about that balance.
yeah, and it's so true. And I think too, like this one, our sort of guru in our tradition says, "Beware of the yoga teacher who doesn't have a sadhana." So it's yeah, it's because if you're a teacher, you must be a practitioner too, because you can't expect your students to progress if you're not already doing it as well.
Absolutely. And the tricky part, Karen, here is that if you're not warm enough and you have to demonstrate, you still have to. So, somewhere you have to know that if you have to demonstrate, then you've got to be prepared for it. You cannot give it like my muscles are not warm enough so that I cannot show you the posture. So the beautiful part of it is if you've kept your practice strong and at bay, it'll never fail you. You just know
Yeah.
how to put other people through it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just so important. And I think too, I think, yeah, you sort of lose yourself, I think, if you don't keep it up. Like I set aside time too in the mornings, and some mornings I can't do as much as normal as others, depending on what's going on. But yeah, I still need that time just to center myself for the rest of the day.
absolutely. Absolutely. Karen, I would like to share with you something that I had read somewhere, that your practice is not just your asana practice. It could also be your breath pranayama practice. It could also be meditation, or it could just be coming on the mat, sitting on a mat, and reading something that is relevant to you and your yoga
Mm,
practice.
yeah.
It could. any of this. It could be practicing your philosophy, if that might be, because some days your body will not allow you to do the whole practice. Even
Yes.
stars stretching, your body will just not allow you to do that. So you got to understand that even reading something that is relevant to yoga, or your breath work or your meditation, is still practice if you've shown up on the mat. Because once you come on the mat, that is a very sacred space. You put your energy in your mat. My teacher always says, be very careful how you fold, how you do not walk around it as if it was a carpet, how you put your stand on it, how you sit on it. It is it's a very sensitive subject. I do not easily allow people to share my mat, and if I
Yes.
do, then I clean it immediately. You cannot to use your energy.
Yeah. And I think one of the practices I love is mantra, because you can do that anywhere. It does, and no matter how you're feeling or what's going on, that can be a constant.
Mantra is a feat, more than the syllables. Every mantra has about 16 syllables, and they are put there in a specific manner. Every mantra is made of 16 syllables each. So, in the ancient India, the sages were very careful about what they did. They were more mindful than us, and they handed over this to us. But we have it all filtered right now. So yes, what you say about mantra is the chant itself holds a very high vibration. So that
Yes.
is too. If that is what it is, then yes, that is enough too for the day.
Yeah. And so I see you're on Instagram and you use social media. So
Absolutely.
but it can be it's such a tightrope where you're sort of trying to balance, because it can really reel you in and take your attention sometimes. So how do you balance your wellness and being present while also still being on social media? What tips do you have for others on
So
how to
uh,
do that?
to say that I am not extremely active posting my own pictures, but sometimes I use Instagram to watch a lot of other people, what they are saying or doing, or how they are doing it. You can get a lot of small tips from other people as well, other practitioners. I also use social media for my own entertainment. I like to look into it, for other things that keep me just happy, entertained. But I only post when I think something is relevant to me, like quotes, something that someone needs to hear someday, or it could only just be like a happy memory that brings a
Yeah.
smile. And my social media, Karen, I'll be very honest, um, I'm slightly older to be like out there, like how the new generation does it. But my social media is only for my closed circle. I add people only when I think they have a certain value to be added to my profile. I do not
Yes.
allow everyone to view it, because we also have habits, right? And that has happened in the past. So yes, I keep my social media not so active, but not inactive as well. If I can draw something from it, is that how other people practice, how if there are workshops happening. And I do help people also to publicize their workshops and their classes through my social media. Like I'm also into sound healing. So I help my other fraternity, like people from my fraternity who are into other practices. If they have workshops, I share them.
Yeah.
The social media for me is about awareness, creating awareness, not only for yourself, but for other people.
Yeah. And I mean that's great. So it's about, I guess, having that intention, or it's almost a sankalpa to go into your social
Yeah,
media, so that so you have an intention, and that you're very discerning about who you mix with and what you look at. And I think
yeah,
that's a really great approach.
yes. Because you can be stuck there for hours
Oh
together.
yeah, I know.
You went to look for one post and then to the another, and there you have lost 30 minutes at a stretch. You only, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. And my next question relates to an inspirational story from one of your students. So clearly you don't have to name them or anything, but Do you have, can you tell me about an inspirational breakthrough or a transformation, a positive transformation that you've experienced with one of your yoga students?
Well, one, I have experienced a transformation with more than one student.
Oh,
So there's
yeah,
student who started with me 2 years ago. Obviously, that time I was not teaching full time, but she was still my student. And she started without being able to balance at all. She was just not able to do any of the balancing postures because her
yeah,
mind was everywhere. And then we slowly started the practice. I also gave her a lot of credit for being consistent for the last 2 years, though she does the class only twice a week with me.
yeah.
Karen able to balance without bringing her foot down for more than 20 seconds in a row.
Wow.
Have so slowly seen her build flexibility, uh, build awareness, and just that when she tells me how she is able to navigate her day, and she's able to make better decisions or she's able to stay calm, that that for me is a breakthrough. Sometimes I see results faster. It depends on the person who is on the mat, what he in or she intends to do for themselves. So sometimes you see the bodies being extremely stiff, and as you keep turning them, you see them become flexible, and somewhere it's just not working in the body, it's also slowly into their mind, But that
Yeah.
only when they share with you is you will understand, oh, this has definitely changed for them. So I approach every student with the intention to probably share what I can from what I have learned to my best ability and capacity, and it is for them to absorb it. So
Yeah.
these transformations are so immediate. Sometimes they take time, sometimes they're immediate, and they're wonderful when people keep coming back to you with things big and small, and you're able to see them. Like imagine they go into chakrasan, wherein they were barely able to lift off from the floor.
Wow.
So
Hmm.
yeah, it is amazing. And then I take a picture and show to them to
Yeah.
remind how far they have come.
That's so exciting. And
It is.
and so we're now like we're nearly in September. And so I always ask about goals for the year. Some people set goals, some people like to go with the flow. What's your approach to goals? And are you on track to it? If you do set goals, are you on track to achieving your goals this year? Or are you already sort of looking to next year?
So I take it one day at a time. I have never been somebody who really sets goals, because my only goal in life is the day that I have today has to be better than the one that I had earlier, in terms of my own individual growth and bringing in creativity for postures, and making it more and more interesting for my students when it comes to me taking a class for them. So my only goal is be better than yourself than you were the previous day. That's my only goal. And the other goal that I have is to give your best with the purest intention. When you put an intent, a sankalp into something, it does turn out to be very, very good, not only for yourself, but also the people around you.
Excellent. And now that brings me on to my final question for our episode today. And my question is, what advice would you give to others, say new yoga teachers, to avoid burning out? Because I know often when you are first trained, you're so enthusiastic and you want to go out and teach everyone and help everyone. But
Correct.
what advice would you give, if any additional advice to new people entering the industry on how to look after themselves so they don't burn out too quickly or at
Um,
all?
okay. Karen, I believe you cannot pour from an empty cup. Your cup needs to be full before you start pouring out. It is for them to realize where to stop, where to take a break, and where to let go, and where to go with the flow. Because
Yes.
when as yoga teachers, sometimes you might have two cancellations a day, and you feel like I have no work suddenly. It happens. Some student might want to bunk that, not in the mood to do it. It happens mostly with personal classes, not so much with the groups. So you've got to understand to step back a little bit, and that is the time you work on yourself to provide more quality. You've upgraded your knowledge about it. And if
Mm,
you do not take sufficient breaks, you are going to burn out. It will happen. You need to step back a little bit, focus on yourself, your food timings, your meditation timings, and all of that to be able to then pour out from a full cup. It's very important. But also, Karen, I come from a space where I have successfully built a lot of things for myself. I don't come from a place of insecurity. I know I can survive with fewer lessons given, but it doesn't happen with new people stepping in. And initially, it's like that. Oh, 20
yeah,
years ago, I went with all my energy and I did whatever work I could. So it happens. But yoga is a slow process, by itself. People sometimes struggle to find this. So, yes, you still have faith and building yourself, your practice, and avoid that burnout. It can be a mental burnout more than a physical burnout.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This brings us to the end of our episode of Cocoon. Do you have any final words or words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Mm, I'd like to say thank you, Karen, for
Um,
having me on Cocoon. It's amazing to speak to you and connect with you and sharing with you my thoughts about my yoga journey. And I wish everyone out there, I wish them well. I want to say that yoga comes from a space of spirituality and wisdom, and slowly it transforms you. So if you want to see that transformation in one day, it is not going to happen. It needs a lot of patience because it's finally leading you to something much higher and bigger.
yes,
It's your journey towards spirituality. It's not just a physical practice. And if you really want to experience yoga, you have to allow yourself to experience it. That's all. That's my big.
that is so true. It's amazing advice, and that's right. It's a lifestyle. It's not just a overnight thing. So,
Absolutely.
but it's so
Absolutely.
worth it.
Yeah.
Every effort is worth it. So, oh, so thank you so much, Neha. And
Yeah.
yes, and we'll catch everyone next month for another episode of Cocoon. So
Thank,
thank you, and thank you again.
thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.